Hello everybody and welcome back to another video for the day. We are heading back into r/AmITheDevil, and if you guys would love to be absolutely amazing, show your support and see more videos like this one in the near future, be sure to hit that like button, leave a comment down below to start up them wholesome internet discussions, and if you guys have not already, subscribe to the channel and turn on them notifications. Also, if you guys want to save 10% on your next order of gamer subs, use code Tommy at checkout or click the link down below. It'll automatically apply the discount to your transaction, and it helps support the channel. Thank you. Also, I'm reading over the comments from the Insane People Facebook post because I'm recording this the day after it went live, and thank you guys. It really does make me happy. I want to try to reply to as many of them as I can. The American church has become gynocentric, I don't know the pronunciation, and it is quietly destroying itself. For those not knowing what the word means, much like myself, here's the definition. My post will probably offend some people, but it is something that I think the church needs to confront honestly. I want to see this person do, and I want to speak to the manager part and go all the way straight up to the big man upstairs and still not be satisfied. The modern American church has become increasingly gynocentric. I don't know the pronunciation, I'm just gonna alternate them, okay? And it is slowly undermining its own long-term stability. Make no mistake, I am not claiming that women are inferior.
Right.
Men and women have different strengths, psychological tendencies, and social roles. We also have different weaknesses. Healthy societies and institutions need both. But when one set of tendencies dominates the culture of an institution, the institution itself starts to change in ways that may not be healthy long term. In most churches today, women make up the majority of active participants because institutions adapt to the most involved people. Church culture often begins to prioritize values that are more common among women on average: relational harmony, emotional sensitivity, and social cohesion. These things are not bad in themselves. In fact, they are extremely important in community life. However, when social cohesion becomes the primary value, it often comes at the expense of truth, discipline, and structural leadership. Psychologically speaking, women tend to score higher traits like agreeableness and social conformity. In evolutionary terms, this makes sense. Historically, women are physically more vulnerable, and survival often depended on staying aligned with the group rather than challenging it. Men historically played a different role. They were more likely to challenge structures, enforce boundaries, and maintain order, even when doing so created conflict. Healthy communities tend to emerge when truth, structure, and order are firmly established. The kind of harmony and cohesion many people desire is often a natural byproduct of those foundations, rather than something that can be sustained by prioritizing harmony alone. When cohesion becomes the primary goal, there can be a temptation to avoid conflict, often difficult truths, or conform to prevailing social pressures to maintain peace. Over time, that dynamic can unintentionally weaken the very structures that keep a community stable and unified. It creates a quiet resentment and bitterness in our churches because there is no semblance of structure and healthy conflict. There is no masculine energy. It is all feminine. Pastors often feel pressure to maintain harmony in their congregations, especially when the majority of active members are women. Over time, sermons become softer, boundaries become less clear, and difficult truths are avoided to keep the peace. At the same time, many sermons disproportionately focus on holding men accountable, while rarely addressing the sins or responsibilities of women with the same directness. The message can begin to sound as if men are the primary source of problems in the church, while women are largely exempt from criticism. The assumption is that men sin more than women because we mistake the fact that men tend to sin more often with the idea that women rarely sin at all. This creates an uneven burden, with men repeatedly told to fix issues in families, relationships, and communities. Over time, many men begin to feel less supported and more targeted. Young men, especially, can internalize this as constant criticism rather than guidance. When they bring up their struggles, they are often met with dismissive responses like, "I'll pray for you. Just pray to God." Or vague calls to action such as, "Step up as a man up," or "pick yourself up by the bootstraps," rather than meaningful mentorship or support. Young men often feel increasingly disconnected from church life. Lead, but we won't effectively train you to do so, nor will we provide meaningful support along the way. Step up, but we won't mentor you. Be strong men of faith. But the institutional structure that we created around you often doesn't cultivate strength, responsibility, or discipline. So what do many young men do? Many young men quietly disengage, which has enormous consequences. These young men correctly realize, "I am not wanted or welcome here. Everyone here is passive-aggressive towards me. And I sense that I am hated because I was born a man. A time to withdraw. My attempts to address these issues are even dismissed." Churches historically survived through family formation and intergenerational transmission of faith. With men disengaged, family formation declines. When family formation declines, the next generation believers disappears. This is already happening across the West. Declining birth rates, declining marriage rates, and declining churches' participation are all interconnected. Ironically, many churches talk about wanting strong male leadership while simultaneously operating in ways that discourage it. The deeper issue is that men themselves have largely abandoned responsibility for the spiritual direction of their communities. Because of the vacuum, the culture of many churches have shifted to prioritize comfort and cohesion over formation and leadership. The current leaders of churches even discourage men who want to step up in this manner, as they are deemed politically incorrect. The truth, the Bible was never politically correct, especially when it came to gender dynamics. Men in the Bible are called to set direction and lead, and women are called to help cultivate that image. But what have we done? We are having women set the direction and having women lead. Most of the churches that I have been to, the pastor isn't the one calling the shots. He often bends the knee to women in the church in fear of causing a controversy if he were to disagree with them. Even something that is seen as harmless, such as certain joke pastors make, has large subconscious implications. For example, when they say things like, "I can do X because it'll upset my wife," when X wasn't even something outrageous to begin with. As hypocritical as this may sound coming from me, ultimately, the response falls on men. From a biblical perspective, the first failure of leadership happened in Genesis. Adam stood by passively instead of intervening when Eve was deceived. Passivity in leadership has consequences. If the church in the West continues avoiding these conversations, it may not collapse because of persecution or external pressure. It may collapse because the internal structure meant to sustain it is no longer functioning properly. This leads me to my next note. We also gaslight men for wanting to take their natural roles as leaders in the church. That is done by attempting to suppress the instincts and characteristics that make men men, the same ones God gave men to handle these roles effectively. For example, if a man wants to protect the woman he loves and be responsible for them, we have allowed the church to call such a man controlling. I am willing to bet that if Adam stopped Eve from eating the fruit, Eve too would have angrily told Adam, "Stop being controlling. I can decide what fruit to eat, nah, 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 nah." But guess what? God questioned Adam first. Adam was expected to intervene and stop Eve, even if today we see that as controlling. Yet we are prioritizing passivity for short-term peace. If fathers in the household actually led and limit the use of certain things, such as device time for their wives, daughters, and sons, these fathers would be called controlling and dictatorial. But that is exactly what men in a household should do. As a man, you should not let anyone gaslight you into believing that you are evil, a misogynist, a sexist, and are controlling for wanting to be a man or protect your family and communities, especially the women and children. That's what we are called to do as men. Love as Christ did, yet we are gaslighted otherwise. Also, other traits, such as aggression, are actively suppressed in the church. We demonize male traits, but if we teach young men to cultivate these traits correctly, they are not as helpful. They are needed. Ironically, when these young men reach adolescence and young adulthood, the suppression of these traits make them undesirable to their fellow sisters in Christ. Women in the church often say, "Where are all of the godly men?" They are all around you, but unfortunately, they were raised by being castrated of the natural male characteristics that make them attractive to you in the first place. It turns out the women in the church, like all other women in that world, also look for secular traits when choosing men. And these young men end up confused as what they did what they were told to do, yet they are unwanted by the women around them. If the American church continues down this path, it will not fall because the world destroyed it, but because we allowed it to be destroyed from the inside. Our biggest threat in the Western church isn't persecution. It is the way that we practice Christianity in the current Christian system we operate in, which is unsustainable. We are building a house that isn't on a firm foundation and is on its last leg. Ah, yes, and this is all because there happens to be more women in church and everything. The world is coming to an end because of that, isn't it? What it's really like to be accused of weaponized incompetence This post may sound like a lot of marriage stories, and I am sure that I will get comments about emotional labor and walk-away wife syndrome, but I was the husband in a marriage, divorced now, and I'd like to present an alternative perspective, if that helps. My ex was also very interested in making things fair. She always had a list of reasons why she did more and why her situation was more difficult than mine. Our conversations reminded me of what is said so often on this website. My husband helps with the kids when he gets home, but I generally feel like most of the labor, mental and physical, falls on my shoulders. My ex felt the same way. But here's the thing about feelings. They depend on the person who is having them. She felt like she did more, but I also felt like I did more. Our workload was different, sure, but I still think I did more around the house than she did. 3 years divorced now. I still think I did more in the marriage than she did, but she'd never, in a million years, see it that way. It became a question of value of a task. I handled long-term financial planning, investing, insurance, things she didn't really notice or care about, home maintenance, lawn care, car maintenance, tech like modems and routers, configuring parental controls on devices. I did a lot. She then cared that things was working and wanted me to continue doing all of my stuff and half of hers. I tried taking over laundry duties too, but apparently I could never do it right. I didn't separate things correctly, fold them the right way, put them in the right drawers. She accuses me of weaponized incompetence. Looking back, I see how easily something like that can be thrown around. She had picked it up from the internet and completely ran with it, because her feelings were so big that was enough for her to declare what I was intending. She gets upset if I told her that she was incorrect in presuming something like that. I was just trying my best. I think having a couples therapy can make a big difference for couples who actually can step of their own perspectives and hear their others, even if it means not immediately jumping to weaponized incompetence. Because from where I was, our therapist told her that she seems to be stuck in our own perspectives and to imagine what it can look like from the other side. And I might be an unreliable narrator here, but I can say with certainty that I attempted to self-correct this out about myself way before we started seeing our counselor. However, there was no sign I saw from her behavior and words that she was willing to see things differently too, which is when I decided to separate. My wife said that she didn't feel like it was fair to her in this situation to follow this advice, but obviously that didn't solve anything. Eventually, I just said, if I'm doing this chore, I'm doing it my way, she said. If that's how it's going to go, I'll just keep doing the laundry. I said, okay. It was hard to admit that I had come to deeply resent my wife. It's hard to put in your best effort for years and have your partner only tell you and how you're not doing enough. I could only hear that so many times before I totally gave up, which I definitely did. Now, this is not me saying that weaponized incompetence isn't real. It can exist. I'm not even sure what the solution is. What I do know is that this is something that needs to be evaluated objectively. Certainly not decided by one person who feels that way. Maybe this is exactly the kind of thing that couples therapy can help sort out. Honestly, now that we don't live in the same house, things feel easier. Like I can breathe. Of course, we share 50-50 custody of our child together, but I live comfortably. We lived alone before, and I definitely know how to handle chores, cook and clean, and parent. At the end, I think it was just different approaches to things rather than just me being actually incompetent. We were just not compatible. Dude, none of the stuff that you listed is stuff that happens on the daily. I'm fairly certain you could help out with the daily stuff and it not be much of a hassle, like the laundry stuff. Yes, folding stuff must be hard for you, isn't it? How dare you? Reading back on the topper stuff, last I checked, on the daily, people are not planning for long-term financial things, investing, or insurance. That's stuff you do on a semi-annually basis, usually, right? I know it's not a daily thing, that's for sure. Not even the laundry stuff is a daily thing. It's more so like a weekly or every 10 days kind of thing, depending on how much clothes you have. My DIL convinced my son to move overseas. My son is in the army, and his contract is coming to an end soon. Last time my son and his wife were home, they were talking about what comes next. They were talking about requesting the base that is only 2 hours from us. My family and my DIL's family all live in the same area. They originally wanted to do that to be closer because DIL's siblings were having their baby soon. And one of my daughters will be engaged soon. My other will graduate soon, and they missed being around everyone they love. However, during these conversations, DIL would make offhand comments about moving farther away than where they do live now. Like, but if we ended up getting put farther away, that'll be okay too. And even I wouldn't be mad if we get put somewhere cool like Europe. That should have told me then. After they went home, my son went to put in his request for his next duty station. His sister called him the day before, and he apparently still planned on requesting close to home. Last week, my son got his order to where they'll live for the next 3 years. And guess what? Somewhere cool like Europe. My son called me 3 days ago to inform me that they would be moving to Germany in the fall. He sounded heartbroken. He says his request for home got denied, and Germany wasn't his choice. My daughter FaceTimed DIL and was talking to her about it. DIL says they're getting excited, but were shocked and disappointed at first. But funny enough, DIL is already several lessons deep into learning German. DIL has gone on to say that this is the perfect time for them to move overseas because they're young and not planning on kids. But I just don't understand how things are so perfect if this isn't what she wanted. Son has also talked about how they would visit home every Christmas. But DIL has started talking about how she's excited to see their Christmas traditions and such. So now I'm starting to worry that she'll not want to visit home. And unfortunately, it's her way or the highway much of the time. Another thing that's been upsetting is hearing all about how DIL's family plans to visit them in Europe, especially when they know that it would be extremely difficult for us to afford visiting them. Not to mention, I absolutely hate flying. Now, my DIL is posting TikTok after TikTok, preparing to move to Germany. We are so excited to move to Germany, learning German dessert recipes before we move to Germany. Just over and over again. And it's starting to feel like it's being rubbed in. Listen, I understand that they are grown and can do whatever they want, but my son didn't want to move overseas, and up until now talked about how much he didn't want to move overseas. And no matter how old my kids get, going 3 years without seeing them and hearing from them minimally due to time change will always be something that I don't want. And lots of people aren't fully understanding, so here is more info. When moving duty stations, you can put it into 3 of your top requests. If there is an opening in one of these 3 spots, you'll be sent there. And that's, of course, is also dependent on rank and time and whatnot. My son was given the option to request 3 duty stations. Yes, the daughter-in-law is evil and convinced your son to move overseas, yes. I hate to break it to you, ma'am, but daughter-in-law doesn't exactly have overriding command or authority over any military stuff. And from the looks of it, it doesn't seem like they ruled out. It says that you even stated in the edit that they could have listed 2 other places, Germany being one of them, likely home being near you guys was another one, and then you have this miscellaneous third option, and then they go with whichever one is available. Unless I misunderstood somebody and somebody could explain down below, that's kind of what it sounds like, right? But with that is going to have to be it with the video. If you guys would like to be absolutely amazing, show your support, and see more videos like this one in the near future, be sure to hit that like button, leave a comment down below to start up them wholesome internet discussions, and if you guys have not already, subscribe to the channel and turn on them notifications. I'll be sure to see you guys in the next one. Thank you so much for watching, and bye-bye!